Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. I am Vishal Dahiya and you're watching our show Discussion today. Now, before we proceed further, let me first wish all our viewers a very happy Republic Day on behalf of entire team RSTV. Now, on the eve of 72nd Republic Day, President Ram Nath Kovind, in his address to the nation, underlined the core values of justice, equality, fraternity and liberty as they've been outlined in the preamble of our Constitution and also as how sacred they are to all of us. He also mentioned the exemplary work done by various sections of the society and specifically the frontline health workers, the scientists, the farmers, the police force as well as our soldiers during the entire COVID-19 pandemic. And through these messages, he has put forth a sort of outline as to how we have worked together as a country. So today, in discussion today, we will try and discuss and decode the message of Honorable President. Let me also introduce our guests. We have two distinguished guests available with us. We have Mr. Praful Ketkar, editor, organizer, and we're also joined by Mr. Shekhar Iyer, senior journalist, to try and understand the message of President of India on the eve of Republic Day. Welcome, both of you gentlemen, to Rajya Sabha Television, and a very happy Republic Day to both of you as well. Let me begin with you, Shekhar. Let's first try and understand the kind of theme which the President of India had chosen to speak about on the eve of 72nd Republic Day, because it spoke up, it mentioned quite a number of references to the pandemic which, the entire globe and obviously India also faced during 2020, a very significant moment in everybody's life.
Indeed, the President's address is very, very significant considering that last 1 year, the year that has gone by, has been a very, very difficult year for all of us individually, collectively, and for the country as a whole. Therefore, the President has underscored the difficulties that we faced in the last 12 months, as well as the challenges, how they were overcome in that spirit which is very unique to us as Indians and very unique to us as a country. Therefore, when you see that he talks about that this country has faced for many years several challenges, several crises, and it has come out of all that because the very quality of justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity is inherent in our traditions and is also enshrined in our Constitution, particularly in the preamble, and is reflected in the way we tackle the problem on a day-to-day basis. That is why, he says, and he has drawn upon a number of, great leaders that the country has seen, great visionaries. The President points out, well, they might have had different dreams. What the country should be, how we should prosper, how we must reach out to every section of the society. They might have had different dreams, but the driving force or the what was common to their aspiration is that justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. I think he has put it very beautifully, bringing out the essence that makes us, India, the country, the Bharat. Okay. I think that is how he has gone about, and he has started with taking into account particular sections, whether it is farmers, whether it is scientists, whether it is health workers, our soldiers, and how they have all, accomplished a lot of things in this year that has gone by, which reflects our commitment, our energy, and our dedication to overcome the challenges before us.
Okay. We'll talk about all these sections of the society further in the show as well. But let me first bring Praful here. Praful, your views on, as Shekhar was also pointing out, on how President, decided to focus on these four core values enshrined in the preamble of our Constitution and how they're really, really important. He used the word sacred, but apart from being sacred, they're really significant and important in our daily lives as well. Also, he mentioned it very clearly that it's not only about the people who govern, but for everybody, all the citizens.
Through you, I would like to wish a very happy Republic Day to all the viewers. And when we talk about we the people and the concept of republic, what is that fundamental thing that binds us together and makes us stand even during the difficult situation as a sovereign nation? I think that is what President has articulated, I think, in three parts. In the first part, he talked about the past and the past significance of these values, the present, especially the year 2020 as the year of learnings, and how we recontextualize and how we need to apply these values in our life. And for the future, that is the unfolding of the mission Atmanirbhar Bharat, and how we can build ourselves at the global level based on these values. So I see this entire speech in these three parts. But what I found, very interesting is, because there has been this debate, what we have borrowed from the Western constitutions, what we have inherited from the British, and how and what was the idea of our constitution makers. He was very categorical and clear, and I found that resonating even during the Constituent Assembly when Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar talked about the idea of republic in his last speech on 25th November 1949. Because what Rashtrapati ji said today is very, very interesting. He said justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity are perennial principles of our philosophy of life, and they come to us from dawn of this civilization through as unbroken chain. But what he further explained is more important. The task of every generation is to seek out the meaning of these values for its times. Our freedom fighters did that, our constitution makers did that, and now it is our time to recontextualize, to seek out the meaning of these values for our times, especially when we are talking about, the renewed concept of borders in the era of globalization, when we are talking about data and data privacy, when we are talking about the entire concept of liberty with responsibility. All these concepts have to be revisited as per the needs of the time. Though their fundamental values are sacred, those values are sacred, but their meaning, their scope changes as per the time. Finding that right meaning for the right purpose is the job of the present generation, and I think perhaps he has reminded that with the context and examples of the challenging year 2020.
Okay.
I see this as a big takeaway of his speech.
Okay, that's quite interesting. You're trying to decode the message in a way that it is for each generation, specifically the present generation, to go ahead and contextualize these core values of our constitution, which are enshrined in the preamble there. Shekhar, I'd like to bring you back here on the fraternity part, where the President of India in his message elaborated a lot about how we as a community, as a nation, we fought against the COVID-19 pandemic successfully, helped each other, played our role very valiantly, all of us, be it the common man who adhered to the rules and regulations for the lockdown, during the lockdown and after the lockdown as well, or be it the scientists who worked tirelessly on the COVID-19 vaccine, or our frontline health workers, the ultimate heroes here.
Indeed, look at the crisis that Europe has been facing since this outbreak of pandemic on a simple issue of, adhering to the health protocol, wearing of masks and staying indoors. They failed the first time and they're again failing the second time. So you are seeing a large parts of Europe is back under lockdown just because the people are not able to understand the need to adhere to all these things in a spirit of fraternity. There it is all about, what is going to happen to me, about my individual rights. Now, here in this country, we saw, right from the beginning, as soon as the government realized the situation is serious and appealed to the people to, adhere to certain protocols, particularly maintain do gaj ki duri or the physical distancing, wear mask, you will be surprised, given the size of our country, given the size of our population, and given the size of our extent of literacy. If you see that, by and large, I would say there was a complete adherence in our cities, in our towns, even in rural areas. people, and mask has become a part of our life. Of course, there are pockets where there were violations. There were people who were not willing to follow those. I mean, there are more exceptions rather than rule. And the result is today, we did see a number of cases, but we managed to contain the fatality at just 1.5 lakhs, even for which is a serious matter. That is why President has paid homage to people who became victims of corona. And similarly, let us look at way our frontline workers, whether it is the health workers, doctors and nurses and other health aid workers, or our frontline workers, whether it is our police, whether it is our soldiers, whether it is our paramilitary personnel, all these people who are out 24 into 7 out in the cities, on the streets. Look at the way, in the spirit in which they came out. I mean, there have been innumerable instances where the doctors, particularly lady doctors with their young babies and children at home, managed to stay away from them for months together because they were busy in the hospitals. Now, this is because, after all, a doctor also has a family. She is, after all, a mother. So, I mean, there are innumerable stories, and some of the doctors became victims. Yet, it did not stop their colleagues from continuing with the task with them. I think that itself is a very unique thing that we have seen.
Okay.
And also in manner in which people responded when the Prime Minister asked all of us to salute our health workers. So you can see that fraternity, the feeling of fraternity is the way that people responded to the crisis, the way our health line and frontline workers responded, and how people looked up to them with gratitude. This shows the kind of feeling of fraternizing, that brotherhoodliness.
Okay.
The fact that, yes, we are in it together and we shall overcome.
Okay.
That's the spirit that guided us through the last 12 months.
Okay, indeed, that's the indomitable spirit there. And as Shekhar pointed out, there are various stories, stories of real life heroes there in this particular situation. Praful, your views there on this part, how we stood united, how we stood as one against this onslaught of COVID-19 pandemic. And ultimately, we have emerged victorious with the vaccine there now, although we have to ensure the COVID-appropriate behavior still. But within a span of less than a year, from a day when there was so much confusion and there was no cure inside there as well, to a day when vaccine is being delivered not only to the neighbors, but also our own citizens are getting vaccinated at a rapid rate here.
Vishal, again, I would like to point out one important segment of his speech where he said, Indians have been like a close-knit family, making exemplary sacrifices to protect each other in the face of the common enemy of coronavirus. Now, whether you talk about doctors or nurses or paramedics or healthcare administrators, sanitation workers, these people were working in other countries also. They were doing their duties. Of course, the spirit, may be varying here and there, and their contribution is very important, very significant, no doubt. But still, what was that one different aspect that allowed us to do something for each other? I covering this, entire mass migration issue during the COVID crisis. And I'll just cite two examples. There is one society on UP Delhi border. The moment people saw people gathering towards the border side, they came out on their own. There was no official order. There was no request from the administration. They ensured for almost 3 meals, they fed 600 people, one society. Now, this was not a part of duty. This was a feeling of being part of the republic on the value of fraternity.
The second incident that I recall is of a lady who was a vegetable vendor, and she decided to distribute her remaining vegetables after 6 p.m. in a nearby locality. The people who were poor, needy, and they didn't have access to the day-to-day things. Now this shows we have this mindset not to rely on the state machinery for everything. As a society, we come out and with the feeling of natural, brotherly, familial values, these are the things that guide us as a republic. And that's why, despite many nations who have been saying whether we would survive as a democracy, as a republic or not, we have survived and against all odds in very difficult situations like COVID-19 pandemic, only because of this strong feeling of what I generally call the unique value of India, based on the fraternity, based on spiritual democracy. So
Okay.
here I think I find this message in today's speech by Honorable Rashtrapati.
Okay, okay, indeed, that is a very important aspect there, and two very nice examples cited by Praful here. Mr. Iyer, I'd like to bring you in here again back, and on a very another important aspect here in the President's address, and that's about the spirit of self-reliant India. The Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, and how India and Indians sought opportunity in the time of this crisis, and we worked upon it in terms of the scientific community coming out with solutions, and we using technology as well, and other various aspects, and how we are now all set to take it forward in the form of making India self-reliant in the future. That third aspect which Praful was referring to in terms of how do we translate all these things into tangible results in future.
See, this country has always, looked inward whenever faced with a situation where it feels that you cannot depend on any outside factor. I think the first challenge came when the coronavirus hit us. We didn't have, what is called or what to talk of enough. I would say even a set of, the personal protective equipment, the PPE, the personal protective equipment for our health workers. So initially, somehow some things was organized and probably they organized some source here and there. But then within 3 months, our entrepreneurs got to the task after the government signaled to them that this is an emergency required, that we have to take up the manufacture of this PPE because immediately required. So immediately you saw constantly entrepreneurs got into the task and some units started functioning in the thick of the coronavirus. That time the lockdown was totally tight. So that is the time, our units started working and enough number of PPE were being produced and some of them were sent to other countries which were sending us over. I think that's a very unique case of where you suddenly realize you cannot depend on outsiders because some shipment came from China was found to be substandard. Then it was realized that these are times you cannot depend on others. So similarly, you have seen ventilators. Ventilators also the production was kept up. The requirement of oxygen cylinders. So whatever was needed at that time, we saw both the industry, the government, the entrepreneurs, and other agencies got to the task and did what was necessary. And
Okay.
the other aspect which is not exactly after the birth, but in the face of the challenge, in the face of the hardship, not to sit down and completely give up hope. That is why you saw even the election commission going ahead and conducting elections in Bihar. So many elections were conducted in Kashmir. And not only that, schools, colleges, various professional institutions went about setting up the virtual classrooms. Lectures started taking place and they are still continuing. And it is only recently we have seen some schools have reopened for the class 10 and class 12 who are taking the final exam. And much more important, the President pointed out, even the Supreme Court stepped in and immediately went in for whatever technology that was available for virtual hearing. And similar practices were taken up in various high courts so that, the backlog of cases can somehow be cleared, and urgent cases can be taken up. So
Okay.
we are seeing it sector by sector that so many people, in whatever way they could, and with the concern of what the President said, care and concern for others. Because nobody wanted to say, look, we will just wait for things to get normal. What they decided was, we must do whatever is possible, and the situation will get normal eventually, and that is what has happened.
Okay.
And Similarly, we look at the economy side. Economy side also, from already we were beset with the problems to slow down the economy. And from that stage to, hear the good news that the GST collection rates have gone up to unprecedented levels is a good proof that we are indeed very capable of overcoming challenges. We are indeed very capable of, meeting whatever comes head on and whatever it takes.
Okay. Okay, definitely, we are capable of taking all the challenges head on. One more aspect, let's try to understand quickly from Praful here before we bring this discussion to an end, and that is about equality. The president, in his address, clearly said that equality is the watchword for our republic. So, how do we decode it and understand it in the larger context here, Praful?
Honorable President quoted Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, and he spoke about, because Dr. Ambedkar also had a similar kind of explanation when he said, without fraternity and liberty, equality, or without equality, liberty and fraternity, so these three are important parameters to ensure justice.
Okay.
And equality, because incidentally, President connected it with the national education policy also. The opportunities that is given to all sections of society has to be equal. And for that, we have to make certain provisions, especially for the socially, disadvantaged sections. And that has to be, when he talked about fraternity as the moral compass and constitutional morality as the path, for which the path goes via the value of equality. Because it is a watchdog, as he said, for the great projects of our republic. And the principle that Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar reminded, that we are entering into the era of contradiction, where we have political democracy, we have political equality, one person, one vote, but in social and economic realm, if we do not achieve that equality, sustaining this concept of idea of republic will be very difficult, and that the value that will push us in that direction is fraternity. And in that context, I feel that we should not just decode, but also, actually implement what the president's speech intended for our next generation to inherit in terms of the value framework for the future Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Okay, indeed, these are the values which need to be implemented and imbibed as well. Thank you so much, Praful Ketkar and Shekhar Ayya, for sharing your views with us and our viewers. So there it is, as our panelists explained the essence of President's address to the nation on the eve of 72nd Republic Day, clearly pointing out these values which we have inherited and which are enshrined in the preamble of our Constitution. Not only we should understand them, but we should also imbibe them and practically implement them in our lives. We'll come back again. Till then, keep watching Rajya Sabha Television. Thank you.